Hey, what is going on, everybody? How are you all doing today? I hope you all are having a wonderful and fantastic day today, and if not, hopefully you all will have a better tomorrow. So today, we are going to be reviewing RWBY Volume 6, Chapter 12, Seeing Red. In this chapter, we do finally have a climax to the Blake, Yang, and Adam fight, and I gotta say, there's a lot to really talk about when it comes to that one. So sit back, relax, I hope you all enjoy, and let's go ahead and get started. So the battle between RWBY's group and Cordovan rages on, with Cordovan stating that Maria had roped these children into their rivalry, and that they were going to fail with Maria. While this is all going on, you see the Atlas troops cheering on Cordovan, and apparently they're not paying attention to their radars, because on their radar, it seems that something is starting to pop up and starting to come towards Argus. But we'll talk about that in a moment. So, since nobody really knows how they're going to be able to beat Cordovan, Oscar then comes up with a plan. And that plan is to attack the cannon when the missile launchers pop out, because rather than sealing itself inward like with the dust cartridges for the cannon to use, the missiles pop outward, so that the missiles would all self-destruct on one another once they are hit by something that could be strong enough to blow them up. So that's where RWBY comes in, because Maria then thinks of a plan to get RWBY close enough to the missiles to be able to blow them up. So RWBY decides that she's going to try to make that shot. And as she's getting ready to go on, you can tell that Crow himself really seems concerned about the safety of RWBY. Now, one thing I like here is that Crow is really seeming to have more of a parental kind of touch in some of these instances, in which I kind of like that, and I'll go more into that in a moment as well. Now, we do actually get to see the health of the bot, and this mech seems to have kind of a display as if it was like a video game, which is kind of hilarious, considering that in the last chapter, RWBY was treating this more like a video game in a sense, and that Cordovan is like a big final boss character, and how usually they have some kind of part or piece to them that sticks out, whether it be in the back or something to that sort, which would be the weakness of the machine. And we did know about the whole shield generator bit, so there is kind of that reference as well. But I did like that we did get to see the health of the machine. Now, Cordovan is messaged in by Argus, but she just dismisses her own base, and this is because Maria then taunts her, saying that she has one missile and she knows where she's going to stick straight up, and Cordovan thinks that's funny because she has plenty of them. And Oscar thinks that Maria's crazy for even saying anything at all, and he's got a good point, because I've kind of questioned if Maria may be crazy or she may have dementia, because why would you just blurt out pretty much your plan to eliminating the cannon? Not only that, but is she forgetting the fact that they were trying to make sure RWBY would not be noticed by Cordovan? Because that kind of gave RWBY away entirely, because on Cordovan's screen, she zooms in to see that RWBY is getting ready to snipe the missiles that popped out when she was going to shoot them at... Now, while Maria does state that sometimes the best approach is a direct approach, that's not always bad, but in a situation such as this one, no. More or less, to me, if anything, that gives your whole entire plan away, and which we see how that goes by, because that's when Cordovan decides to seal away the missiles so that RWBY's shot wouldn't make them all explode on the cannon and destroy the cannon. So, yeah, I'd say Maria really gave them away on that one. And so, to that, everybody is very upset because they were hoping that this would work, and while this is the weakness to the cannon, Oscar was not wrong there. Yeah, Maria just had to open her mouth and say something. So I think that that was a bad move on Maria's part. Secondly, that's only going to provoke Cordovan more, which that's something that Maria should have thought about. I don't think that she really did. So the good idea that Oscar had went completely out the window. So yeah, that wasn't very good. So then that's when Cordovan decides to start to charge the cannon up to get ready to strike them. And I'm going to say this, that ship is entirely durable, because it has taken on 3 shots already. So to prepare to take on another one, that is actually pretty insane to see how Atlas makes their ships so durable. So That's when we see Maria charge up the cannon yet again, and she fires the cannon. And this time, what I like that they did with the animation here when they shoot is if you look at Ruby here, you actually get to see the reflection of the beam in Ruby's eyes. Now, I do actually like this, considering that her silver eyes are also to be known as mirrored eyes. So, I like that they really did that, because we've never seen that before, and it was a cool little animation bit that they did here. So, I thought this was a pretty cool little thing they did here for her eyes. So, I did like to see the reflection there. So, good job on that one to the animators, because I thought that was pretty clever. But we see the blast raise the ship again, and there's a little shock wave around it. And because Maria's eyes are connected to the ship, because she plugged that piece into it, well, this has now taken her eyes out of commission. So she's trying to get her eyes to work again. So then that means that Oscar has to take control of the ship. And with Oscar taking control of the ship, just keep that in mind. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to say any more than that. But anyways, so they proceed to crash land within the forest, and as they crash land into the forest, Crow goes off to make sure that everyone's okay, and that no serious casualties had occurred. So that's when Oscar is glad that everybody made it and everything seems fine, and you notice that Ruby falls over. She is actually not feeling too well after all that, and Maria's condition isn't any better, considering that her eyes are completely rendered useless now. So she is completely blind while trying to get her eyes to at least allow her to see again. And then that's when Cordovin comes in trying to mock everyone, stating that what they were trying to do was clever, but even the smartest of apes is no match for the intellect of man. Therefore, looking down on everyone again, as she has been doing, and it's not looking any different here. So what we see is Ruby starts to walk towards the mech, and it shows that she is still persistent. She is not stopping, and that once she's made up her mind of going to Atlas, it's happening. She is not gonna stop. And despite what Crow is trying to do, trying to protect her, in which it makes complete and perfect sense, she's telling him to trust her. And what I get from this is a good kind of parental figure from Crow here, in a sense. And I liked that. But at the same time, what this also makes me wonder is the way that Ruby looks at him and the way that his expression is in this scene, it makes me think that maybe this has to do with remembering something with Summer. Now, I don't know that for certain, but it kind of gives me some vibes of Crow thinking back to that, maybe. Or, this is also the fact of what Maria stated, that Crow didn't give Ruby enough credit, and Ruby hadn't really been seen as an equal in Crow's eyes, realistically, up to this point. So, Crow, it seems that he's putting his trust in Ruby's hands here, and that he thinks that maybe she's going to make the right decision. But at the same time, there's still the point that, well, they're still wrong for trying to go up against the Atlas military, trying to steal a ship from them, and also just continuing to fight against Cordovin when they could just easily give up and give themselves over to the Atlas military. But then if that happened, well, you know, they would probably just be imprisoned or something of that sort, so they definitely wouldn't begin the Atlas then. And it's kind of funny because Cordovin then states that they should just give up and pay for their crimes, which, well, Cordovin's not really wrong here. So that's when Ruby decides, no, you should stand down. Well, why should Cordovin stand down when you're the one committing the crime? You see, this is where this whole battle with Cordovin to me is really just pointless, because it's really not helping anything. And while Ruby does make a point stating that they have come up against people that were bigger and worse than Cordovin, and that they should be on the same side, and that they stole from the Atlas military because Cordovin would listen, she's right to some extent, but she's not right on the fact that she should have just went with the idea of, hey, look, let's steal from the Atlas military. Still not a good idea. Still not agreeing with that one. And I have to say, she's not really wrong when it comes to Cordovin not listening, but at the same time, Cordovin's just doing her job. So, it's understandable. But instead of listening to Ruby, Cordovin has decided to just take the cannon to her and fire it off like someone that is literally insane, because she shouldn't be trying to stick the cannon in Ruby's face, charging it to shoot at her. But yeah, that's not really the best of ideas. So that's when Ruby jumps into the barrel of the cannon, and because the cannon brings out, it locks the dust inside the chamber. So since the dust is in there, when Ruby shoots it, it explodes within the cannon, and then this makes the cannon completely immobile. Now, while that was a good idea to make the cannon immobile and not be able to be used, that doesn't really help the situation none, does it? Because there's something coming up that becomes a problem here. We'll go over that in a moment, as I stated earlier. But looking at the cannon, the reason why you see the rocks, the ice, and the lightning, if you didn't already know, this is because these were the types of dust that were being launched from the cannon. So all the dust within the cannon launches outward, and it all looks like this mess of rock, ice, and lightning. So that's why it looks like that. But then you see Ruby made it out of the cannon just in time before it all exploded on itself and made the big mess of rock and ice that you saw. And then as she's falling, you see Weiss catch Ruby with her gravity glyphs, making her fall slower, and then Crow catches her in the end, and she awakes to say, "Told ya." So Ruby made it out okay, just, her aura broke. That's about it. So everything's fine in that situation for now. So while this is going on, we get to see the Adam, Blake, and Yang fight continue. So Adam starts off by stating, "If you think you couldn't beat me in a 2-on-1 back at Haven, what makes you think you can beat me now?" And that's when Blake says that she can't afford to die now because she has people that care for her. Well, it's funny. She kind of had people that always cared for her. It's not that she didn't. It's the fact that she did the whole time. I don't know if that's more so her learning that in between now and then. I don't exactly know, because she's had family, she's had friends that have cared for her. I don't know why all of a sudden she has come to this realization or finally feels that she had people that cared for her when she has this whole time. So that line felt very off to me. That felt very strange, considering she's always had friends that have been there for her and that have cared for her. So that's very strange to me. So Adam goes on to tell Yang that Blake had one time made a promise to him that she would always be by his side. And then he goes on to say that it shows how well she kept that promise. And Blake then states that it's more than that. Now, while it's been confirmed that Adam abused Blake, there is a problem here. Blake is not lying, and it's true what she's stating, but we've never seen any instance of the abuse other than in the Adam character short, which was the verbal manipulation that Adam was using to make sure that Blake was still there for him. And that was whenever he called her father a coward and said that he was a coward for running away from the White Fang, and that if Blake did the same thing, then she'd be nothing more than a coward. And Blake reassured that she was not going to leave and that she was there for Adam. But that's the only form of manipulation we know of there. And then the only physical abuse we know of, which is after the relationship ended, which was in Volume 3, whenever Blake is stabbed by Adam in the stomach. But that's about it. So that's really all we have other than what we've heard at panels and whatnot. And they've talked about how Blake was abused, but that's really about all we've gotten out of it. I'll go more into this in a moment. And that's when Yang states that, "Did Blake promise that to the person you pretended to be?" Which that was a pretty interesting statement. So that's when Adam says that he's made his choice and he knows that Blake's made hers too, and that's when they start fighting. And in the fight, I did like the kind of cutaway there that looked like a video game sequence. That was kind of interesting. Seeing Blake and Yang with like the little line there, I thought that was pretty cool. It really felt like they were trying to mimic a video game sequence for a fight there. But then they start fighting it off, and I have to say, I really enjoy this fight. I've said it before. I'm continuing to say it because the one thing that really picks up from the motivation from Adam, which that's the part that's lacking, but the positive I can really give this is the fight, because this fight up to this point has really been a heated fight. It's been a good fight, and I think one of the best in the series, honestly. I think that they've done a very good job with the Adam, Blake, and Yang fight. And I'm really glad that they had the team combo attack with Yang and Blake, but this time instead of Yang being the one slung around, it was actually Blake. And I thought that was cool, because you go back to Volume 2, they did this technique against Roman Torchwick, but it was actually Yang who was being tossed at Roman rather than Blake. So I thought that was really cool. And once Blake hits Adam's blade and they clash. What I really like is this clash has a huge shock wave that comes from it, showing the power behind it. And I have to say, I thought that was actually a really cool thing they did, showing the power behind that clash. And then when the shockwave just goes, they just go fly. You see Blake go flying into the mountain. You see Adam flip back and catch himself. And then when you see Blake, she hits the mountainside and loses her aura. And that's another thing. They have really tried in this fight here, as well as this volume, really, to try to keep up with aura so it doesn't seem so inconsistent. Because as they've stated in the past, they have been very inconsistent with aura. And hopefully they can continue to try to be more consistent with it. While there are still some issues, I think it's good that they are trying to keep up with it. So hopefully they will try to keep up more with aura and do better with it. So hopefully they can be more consistent with it, and hopefully they can continue to do better with aura as time progresses. Hopefully they'll learn to keep up with it. But anyways, so as Blake hits the mountain and loses her aura, that's when Adam asks Yang, do you think you're faster than you were at Beacon? And what I like about this is, for a brief moment, you can definitely see that Yang's PTSD acts up a little bit. And I like that for a moment. And then I love Adam's statement, because I thought it was kind of funny, where he goes, me neither. I kind of laughed at that. That was actually kind of funny to me. Like I said, his quotes can be kind of hilarious as of late. They're witty, but it's just kind of funny how he goes about it. So I'll give Adam that. And Yang then continues to fight, though. And I understand PTSD can be taken differently by people, but I was kind of hoping more for a moment that would really bring a lot of shock to Yang here, but she chose to fight. And like I said, PTSD affects people differently. People take things differently, so I guess I can kind of see that there. So then they continue to fight, and while this is going on, Blake is climbing up the mountain to get back up there to be able to fight and assist Yang. And one thing I'm going to say is, I thought this was cool when Adam throws his blade at Yang and she blocks it, but it looks like he used the Force as if he was someone that was a Jedi or a Sith, and he just throws it. The black lightning was kind of cool around it, but it's like he's using the Force to keep the blade spinning, which I thought was kind of cool, actually. And so as this continues, he thinks that he's got a hit in when he uses his semblance, and then that's when you notice, for the first time since Volume 3, Yang finally used her semblance. This is something that I think she should have done last volume, but it's better late than never, and I'm going to say this. I like that her hair is glowing the way it's glowing. It looks good, in my opinion. I think that they really animated this well right here. And then she says, gotcha, and she just full force hits Adam and gives back the damage she's taken. Now, what I like about this is that Yang doesn't use this out of anger. She uses this in a smart way. She's become smarter and more experienced over time, because in the past, when Yang used her semblance, it was out of a temper tantrum, or it was the fact that she got so mad, and then she just lost it and used her semblance. But this time, Yang strategically planned out when to use her semblance, and that's what I like. And what I also like is when she finally responds and says, no, just smarter. Instead of being faster, she's smarter, which, that's true, she's learned over time, but I have already stated my issues with her character arc. But one thing I will say here is that it kind of reminds me back to Tai Yang, though, what he was trying to teach her. So I think that this is something that she's used and taken to accordance, and it's kind of funny because it sounds like she's kind of getting some ideas from her mom, her mother's ideology. I don't know. It just sounds like Raven, because Raven would say she was smart all the time. So it reminds me a lot of that. So it's like she learned from both her father and her mother. So I like that in a sense. So Adam reaches for his blade, but then realizes it's not there, and Yang is holding it. And that's when it seems that the battle is completely taken a turn, because without his blade, well, Adam can't use his semblance. So what I like is whenever he gets punched at the crater too, you see his aura drop, and then when Yang is holding his blade after she uses her semblance, you see her aura drop too. So they've lost their aura, so everybody is on equal terms now. And so what Yang does is, so that Adam can't get his blade back, she literally chucks this thing over into the waterfall so that he can't get his blade back. And the most important part is he can't do anything semblance-wise now. As I stated about Adam's semblance, his semblance is very overpowered, but the flaw is, without his blade, he can't use it at all. So there's no semblance. At this point, he is no different than Mercury. He is essentially without a semblance. At this point, this means he really just doesn't have a semblance without a blade. And then, whenever he goes to reach for the blade because he couldn't catch it in time, that's when Blake uppercuts him. But Adam then notices Blake's blade, and that's when he goes to reach for it, and that's when Blake starts to run after it as well. And so, as they go in to try to get the blade, that's when Blake grabs it just before Adam does. But at the same time, Yang grabs the tip of the blade that was broken off, and so what does she do? Her and Blake both go and combo into Adam, and they stab him with both blades. Now, here's what I'll say about this. The way I thought would be a good send-off to Adam, the way that they could beat him, I thought would be a combo attack by both Blake and Yang. So I was okay with this, and this is basically what I foresaw going into this. So, alright, I'm glad to know I was right there on Adam getting taken out by both Blake and Yang, but wow. I mean, this was an intense attack, and they literally stabbed Adam from both the front and the back. I mean, it was just a brutal hit. And then, next thing you know, he's just like, oh. And then he falls to his death in the waterfall. And sadly, Adam had potential at one time, and he lost it. I think Volume 5 was truly the death of Adam, and then Volume 6 was the walking shell of what Adam was, and then they killed him in this chapter. So, I mean, it brings a close to Blake and Yang's arc, and it shows that Blake is going to keep her promise. She's not going to run away anymore, and Yang trusts her, and she knows. She's past being upset at Blake for running away, and she knows that Blake won't run anymore, that she is there to stay officially. Now, I'll talk more about this in a moment. So then, after that, that's when we get to see Cordovan, and the mech is still down, and this entire time, the Atlas soldiers at Argus Base had been trying to contact Cordovan about how there is an issue going on. But Cordovan didn't pay attention to it because of her fight with Maria and RWBY's group. So, when she finally contacts everybody to help her take down Maria and RWBY's group, that's when she is finally told that there is an issue, that Grimm are coming to attack. And the problem is because of the negative emotions that had been weighing around the area, because Cordovan had been upset, Maria had been upset, RWBY had been upset, their whole group had been upset, and this attack in the city, which also led to the people being concerned, it all gave off negative emotions, and with these negative emotions, the Grimm were obviously lured to Argus. And so then we see the Leviathan Grimm, which to me looks like a giant platypus. I don't know if anybody else feels that way, but I feel like it's a giant platypus. I like to call it Pladzilla because it reminds me of a platypus and Godzilla's kind of body. So to me, this thing's Pladzilla the Leviathan. That's just what I'm going to call it. But while the Leviathan Grimm comes in, as well as Sphinx and Manticore Grimm, they state that they need Cordovan in the mech, but the mech is down. And then the chapter ends there. So I'm going to give my full opinions on this chapter, and then give my overall rating. First off, the fight choreography and animation. It was very good when it came to the Adam, Blake, and Yang fight. I really enjoyed it, and I think it was very well performed. I think it was executed brilliantly, and this is one of my favorite fights in RWBY by far. I think it's one of the best ones they've done. And I have to applaud the animators for that because they have done a very excellent job, and I think this volume they've really stepped up a lot of their game. Also, looking at this being the closure that Blake and Yang needed, well, that was good. I mean, it develops their characters and ends their character arcs respectively, so that's a good thing. I do like that, and I'm glad to see that Blake obviously has learned from the past and she's kept to it, that she's not going to run away this time. That's good. It's good that she's sticking to what she realized in Volume 4. And then, when we see that Yang is trusting of Blake and knows that she's not going to run away anymore, and that she and that she's gotten past the anger of not being able to control that. Now that she controls it and uses her semblance the way she did, I like that. That was good. She used her semblance not out of anger this time, but strategically to help win against the fight with Adam. So I like this. I think that they did a very good job there. And now that she's also gotten over the anger of Blake running away and that she has forgiven her, this is another good thing. So we got some good things here. And Cordovan, that fight, I didn't really care that much about it. I mean, I didn't hate it, but it wasn't amazing either. It was okay. I mean, it was alright. So yeah, so that's really all I have to say about that one. That it was okay. But let's get to the negatives. So Adam, I talked about this last week. I'm gonna have to say it again. Sad thing is, he's dead. They killed him. Now, while I'm glad the way that he went, now what I mean by that is the combo attack that Blake and Yang used, I like that because I was hoping that Blake and Yang, to defeat Adam, would combo attack him. But the way his character was treated, there was just no respect here. I don't think that they cared for Adam's character. I just think that they were just trying to push him out of the story. I think they just wanted him out, and that was it. I think they were just tired of Adam, and I overall just think that because the White Fang and all that's pretty much over with, I think they just wanted Adam gone. I think they just wanted him completely out of the story, and that was really it. And so instead of respecting his character and keeping him all about justice or anything that he originally stood for, they just make him the crazy ex-boyfriend. And that's really all they did with Adam's character. And seeing the fact that Adam had such great potential at one time, he really did. He had the potential for his character to go places. I feel like with Adam, they really could have made him one of the greatest characters in the series if they had really wanted to take the time to write his character. If they really were to continue to go with his motivations at Volume 3 and go from there and build upon them and structure them and strengthen them, then yes, Adam could have been splendid. And they just dropped it all. They realistically dropped the ball. And I think this is one of the cases of the writers basically showing us they don't care for Adam, that they don't care for this character, and that they didn't mind dropping him. I think that this could be an example of what they may do to another character in the future, and that's what scares me, because they could take another character that could have potential, and they could potentially ruin them too. That kind of scares me a little bit, and I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that for antagonist characters in general, because every character should be treated with respect, and Adam deserved the same equal respect as any other character in the entire series. Every character deserves that respect when writing them. And as I've said before, when you're writing characters, you have to care about your characters. Even if they're good, even if they're evil, you need to care about them. And you need to plan a direction you're going to take them in. And for Adam, in this case, I felt the writers just did not care. So overall, my rating for this chapter would be a 6.5 out of 10. While there were good parts like Blake and Yang's development, their character arc coming to a close, and we had a great Adam Blake Yang fight, the Cordovan bit was just kind of to me. And Adam's character and how his character was treated up to this point, I just don't think that his character was cared for, and I think that really hurts this chapter a little bit, in my opinion. But anyways, I'll be back again on Tuesday. Let me know what you think down below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know in the comments down below. But anyways, thank you all for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. And if you did enjoy, hit the video with a like, subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and share with your friends if you found this informative or useful. Well, anyways, I hope you all have yourselves a wonderful and fantastic day today. And remember, if today was not a good day, tomorrow can always be better. Take care of yourselves and everyone around you, and have yourselves a good one out there, everybody.